Hello, everyone. This is Mark Joritzma with North Dakota Family Alliance. So glad you could join us today. We are doing our second interview of a legislator, and we're very excited. We have Senator Keith Boehm. And I got the last name right, didn't I?
Yes.
This time. Okay. All right. I've been struggling with that. That's my problem, not his. And so you are a first term, basically.
Yes.
First term senator. And we'd like to ask you a few questions so that people get to know you a little bit more.
Okay.
Sound good?
Sure.
Okay. So let's start with this. Tell us a little bit about you and from a personal standpoint. Maybe your family or what you do or any of that sort of stuff. Whatever you'd like.
Well, I got very deep roots west of Mendon in the ag community. I grew up out there. The apple didn't fall far from the tree. Our present ranch farm is 5 miles from where I grew up, and I worked with my dad in the ag community for 40 some years, and then he passed away, and then I separated from the main operation and went on my own. And I'm married to Janelle, a star in our family. We have 8 children together, and they're all adults at this point, all successfully working their way through life. And 5 of them are married. We have 17 grandkids.
Wow.
And they are our story. And so we farm and ranch west of Mendon. I worked in the power industry for 42 years, so I could afford the farm. And
what did you do in the power industry?
I was in operations at a generating plant.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. And I spent 40-some years there. I worked shift work. It allowed me to do what I really love, and that's farm and ranch. And we grew a pretty sizable operation west of Mendon with my dad, and we still have one that's sizable but smaller. And we also, during the course of time, my brother and I and my mom, we got involved in the fuel industry in the travel center west of Mendon. So we're co-owners of the Flying J Travel Center west of Mendon, and that takes up some of our time. And we have 60-some employees out there, and
wow.
That's what we do.
Excellent. So, well, thank you for that. And we had talked about the fact that this was your first term.
Yes.
In 2023. Yes. And how many new legislators came in that session? There were quite a few.
Yeah, there was quite a few. In the Senate here, boy, I'd have to really dig to find the number, but there was probably 10 new senators.
Wow. Out of 47.
That's not exact, but
yeah.
And over in the House there was a number of new ones, and the ones that came in this time, there was a conservative bent to them. Yeah. And so we, with our conservative bent, I have a very conservative bent, and with that we were able to bring the Senate a little bit to the right, yeah, which was not a bad thing. And so we fought some huge battles, and we won some of them and we lost some of them. As you know,
yeah.
In my queue, as far as getting into politics, and this will go back to getting to know me a little bit. I was never involved in politics before 2021. Other than I followed politics, I knew what was going on, but other than voting, I was not involved. And then I retired from the power industry in 21 in April. And at that point, there were some people on our district that just subtly indicated that maybe I should run for office. And, I just kind of, I ignored that.
Yeah, you dismissed it.
I ignored that. And then as the year wore on, they invited me to some district meetings and so forth, and pretty soon they were asking me to run. And Janelle and I, my wife and I, we prayed long and hard about that.
Yeah.
And we weren't all that excited about that. And then, you know, like I said, we thought about it, we prayed about it, and finally we got the message that we need to get involved for our kids and grandkids, and the other kids that, you know, our society, our culture is, I don't want to be dramatic about it, but it's not heading in the right direction. And I think just about everybody knows it. And whether they're going to get into the battle or not, that's up to them. But we decided that we had to get in the battle and do this. And we had an exciting campaign. We had it was meant to be.
Yeah.
And we got it. We made it to the primary, and we had no competition.
Wow.
So we had to get to the primary, which was a big battle, you know, because we were running against an incumbent and so forth in the same party. And you know, like I said, it was a big battle, but we got through it, and we just trusted that we were meant to be here, and here we are. And I've gone through one session now, and you know, when you get into these things, you kind of, you know, you tend to be concerned that you're not ready for the battle, or you're not up to the task, or, you know, I'm not smart enough, or I'm not public enough, and so forth. And you know, when I look back on it, the whole story from today to back to when we got started in 21, I could just see there wasn't as much concern, there wasn't as much worry, there wasn't all those things that we should have battled. You know, when we were in the middle of the campaign, it was like, you know, I heard in my heart many times, you do your part, I will do mine. And we've seen his hand all the way through. And, you know, we should have been, you know, I don't know if it was ignorance or just blind trust. You know, we took on a very formidable candidate. And it just didn't seem like it was a big deal. You know, like I said, maybe it was ignorance, or maybe it was just divine intervention.
Yeah.
So
I think it's great. I haven't even asked you about integrating your faith into the work that you do, but even from the point where you were considering running, you saw God's hand in what you were doing. And I imagine now that you went through a session, you can recall ways that God was in a very real way part of your decision-making process and in those particular hearings and so on. And which committees are you
I
on?
was on the Energy and Natural Resources Committee and the IB, Industry and Business Committees.
Okay.
And so, you know, and that's because of my background in business,
Right.
my background in the energy industry.
Yeah.
And we had good committees. We had, you know, they were staffed well, and we went through some battles there too. But it was all something that was familiar to me, and so therefore I was able to make my conservative bent decisions.
And we like that.
Yeah.
Yes, we're very happy with that. So sticking with what happened last session, what bills did you introduce?
I introduced a bill on election integrity.
Okay.
And I introduced the what they call the library bill.
Okay.
And those were the only two pieces that I introduced, you know, was the prime sponsor.
Right.
But I was on many bills that were pro-family bills.
Yeah.
As far as a minor sponsor goes.
Yeah.
So we fought those battles. My battles were not necessarily in industry and business, although there were some, or Energy and Natural Resources, uh, I done what we needed to do there.
Mm-hmm.
But my biggest battles were in the pro-life, pro-family arena.
Right.
And I think we had great success,
Yes.
through that session, um, to get, what was it, 85% of those bills?
83.
83.
You're real close. Yeah.
83% of those bills through in a session is, I thought was absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
And we done a lot of, we got a lot of legislation that will protect the family.
Yeah.
And protect life and so forth.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And the 83% that we're talking about, it was interesting because we talk amongst ourselves, the other family policy councils in the other states. Yes. And after we came off the legislative session, we kind of compared notes. And the red states got redder, the blue states got bluer, so that's unfortunate, although we're seeing that now. That's not a huge surprise. But they actually voted our state out of all 40 as the most pro-family state. And I remember they came to us and they said, well, congratulations, you've done a great job, and so on. I said, North Dakota Family Alliance is just a piece of the puzzle.
Yes.
It's men like this, men and women like this who make the difference. And you're right, there was a huge influx of conservative Christian legislators. And that made a big difference in terms of what to get passed. Because from our perspective, often the pro-life or pro-family bills would have more difficulty getting through the Senate. This session, it was amazing. It just flew through. The first bills that we saw go through, I remember saying that there's something very different. God has made this chamber very different, and you're part of that. So thank you.
Well, in my faith, I'm not pushing my faith on anybody else, but it does affect my principles. It affects my decisions. We hear people say in politics, well, that's my personal life, and it doesn't affect my public life. I'm sorry, but my personal life, I'm not sorry, my personal life affects who I am in the public.
Yeah.
And it must. You can't live two different lives.
Yeah.
We have to follow our principles, and my principles are established by faith.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, obviously, we are fully behind you integrating faith into your political work. So we really appreciate that. Be an example for many of the other new legislators. Another question about the session. What was your favorite part of the session? That may be a tough question to answer. But
what was my favorite part? I think it was talking to the other legislators.
Yeah.
There was some camaraderie in the whole thing. You become a family, so to speak. And we don't all like our brothers and sisters, So I mean, but we acted like a family here. And that whole arena is very complex. Just like a family is complex.
Right.
And you don't always land in the same place. But in this session, there was a lot of people in this chamber, a lot of legislators that had the family at the top of their list.
Yeah.
And it was a good thing. And I think in the other chamber, it was similar.
Mm-hmm.
And it was due to the influx that you talked about of conservative, faith-filled people that came into the chambers.
Yeah. And one thing I really appreciate, and this goes for the Senate and the House, just working with all of you, it's in a very respectful way. Mm-hmm. Even those who don't agree with us, who are on the opposite side of issues and so on, I just appreciate the fact that they respect the office of a legislator, and that you can have that dialogue, and you're part of a family. You may think it's part of a little dysfunctional family at times, but
Yeah,
they're still part of your family,
yeah,
and you're still trying to do the best you can for the state of North Dakota, right? I mean, you have a common goal. You
yeah.
may look at things differently, but yeah, you have a common
And
goal.
and people that are filled with faith, if they're truly filled with faith, they're gonna they're gonna portray their faith,
Yes.
and they aren't gonna be the loudest voice or the harshest voice or the best argument. They're gonna be people that make wise choices, speak wisely, and so forth.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So, out of all the bills, and I don't know how many actually went through the Senate. There were 986, I
Mm-hmm.
think, total, and so some were voted down in the House. But however many, the hundreds that went through the Senate, and everyone gets a floor vote. I don't know if you're aware of that, but in North Dakota, every bill that's introduced in a particular chamber gets a floor vote, which is kind of unusual for a lot of states. So, of all of those bills, which one was the hardest to vote on? And it could be voting for or against. I don't care which one.
I think the property rights bills in the Energy and Natural Resources Committee were the hardest ones I voted on.
And why is that?
Well, in our district, energy is a it produces 14,000 jobs in our district,
Wow.
and and there were several property rights bills that came through that, boy, I wanted to vote this way, and for our district, I needed to vote this way, and they were just difficult decisions, very difficult. And would I vote the same again? Uh, we'll see, because I think they're coming through again. But they were difficult because I had good friends. I got good friends in the property rights side. I got thousands of people in our district that needed this legislation to go one way.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I
So
understand. Is there anything else about your first session that really stands out? Anything that surprised you, either good or bad? I know when you're coming in,
yeah,
you sort of don't
yeah,
know what to expect because you haven't done this before. But
yeah. And it's like anything else when you're in a different arena and you're coming in. It takes you a while to get used to it,
yeah,
and I, I guess I would have liked to have had a little more training so that I could get uh, my wheels on the ground sooner.
yeah,
Um, and I was surprised that we weren't we weren't aware of how the workings. I didn't put my bills in until you know things were. It was in session.
yeah,
We were in session, and now, from what I know, we're working on bills for
yeah,
next session, and we're working hard on them,
yeah,
and we're we're creating a team that so that we can get the legislation we think is necessary through.
yeah,
So I was a little bit surprised about that, but as far as the arena, as far as how things worked and everything, and the people, I found very little unexpected.
okay,
I just I knew this arena was like what I seen,
uh-huh.
and um, once I got up to speed, I felt very comfortable here.
Good.
So it wasn't like you know uh, the speeches and everything that comes with the committee hearings, and uh, I kind of expected all that, and I
Oh,
expected the battles that occurred. I didn't think they were out of a line. I didn't think that they
right.
were too hard or that you know you know, I didn't expect that. You know,
Yeah.
just didn't. Everything that happened was was not unusual.
Well, and I'm glad you mentioned the work on the bills because I've actually uh, had a few years ago someone come up to me and say right after session, well, this must be great. Now you get almost a 2-year vacation from having to do anything. And I guarantee you, we don't get a 2-year vacation
No,
between sessions.
no.
No, because there's obviously a whole lot of other stuff North Dakota Family Alliance does. But even related to just legislative things, like you say, right after session, the legislators and those of us who are involved, you start talking, you come up with ideas and so on, and you just start
And
spinning those around and finding the best ways to put those in a bill.
yeah, and we also have the interim committees.
That's
You
very
know,
true as
we
well.
have that, so we're working on some stuff there, and like I said, we are crafting legislation during the interim,
Yeah.
and you know, now that we know how the whole process works, you know, it's much more. I'm enjoying this part of it. Let's put it that way, because we're able to form a team over the course of time that will get some of this legislation through, and we are working on family legislation. We
Excellent.
just are, and we're going to revisit some of those battles we fought in the last session,
Mm-hmm.
and hopefully this time they'll turn out a little better.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm sure that you guys are working on stuff too that you're thinking about for the next session, and that's what we need to do. We all need to do to work on things early so that we're prepared for battle.
Yeah.
And because the family is under attack,
Absolutely.
the culture is being very hard on family, on children, on parents. You know, and there's the whole educational battleground. It's very real, and
Yeah.
is it more than we can accomplish? Like I said during session, you know, we lost a bill or two, and I I I told our teams, I said, God never loses.
Yeah.
Never loses. We may have not won this battle, but God never loses.
Yeah.
And he's taken some of those battles where we didn't win yet, um, and used them to increase our army. And so we're pretty happy about that. So,
Amazing how God can take a situation that looks pretty dark sometimes
yeah,
and move it around. And then in hindsight, usually you look at it and go, wow, that was way better than my plan.
yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
that's what we see, and I'm excited. You know, the whole, you know, you can't keep everybody happy in this arena.
Yeah.
So, you know, we have always got the scuttle of a politician that comes back. You either weren't you didn't accomplish what somebody expected you to accomplish. You got that, and then, you know, you got people that you have constituents that, why did you accomplish that, you know? And so there's all that usual stuff in this arena, but uh, we, it's uh, it's been a good experience. Let's
Good.
put it that way.
And the one thing I think you find, and I've heard from other legislators, is the complexity of doing it. If somebody looks at a bill and they see it in one of the local media, it's maybe 3 paragraphs and it's presented very simply and understandably.
Yeah.
But the complexity behind it and the reason it was introduced and all of the pieces moving around, it can get very complicated.
Yes, and it can get misinterpreted.
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
know, there's so much misinterpretation of legislation, and nowadays it seems like people aren't willing to dig into it and look at all the angles and all the, both sides of it, and really look what's trying to be, what we're trying to accomplish with the legislation.
Yeah.
And but that's just one of the challenges. So we, I know I just roll with it.
Yeah.
Because you have to, and I feel that the legislation that I'm supporting, I've really thought about it. I've prayed about it, and I've compared it to what I believe. I compare it to what I study, and I feel like I give it a fair hearing.
Excellent. Is there anything else that you'd like the people of North Dakota to know about either it can be you or the Senate or the legislative process? Or I'm just opening it up.
Yeah.
You can tell them what you will.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, I'm in this Senate to help protect our families. Yes, I'm an energy industry person. That's my background. But I would not have come here if I hadn't felt the call to help protect the family and life, for that matter.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm here, and I will, we'll see if I do another term. I don't even know if that's going to happen. We're going to think about it and talk about it, and I've got one more session for sure.
Well, and we're glad you're going to be here for the next one,
Yeah.
because yes, we will definitely be talking, as you know, as we already do. But I can tell you from our perspective, folks like Keith are wonderful, because you have a particular bill. There's a group that you can count on, a group of legislators, and you know they're going to vote according to their faith, according to their beliefs. And I don't have to go and mess with you and go, hey, come on, Keith, you need to vote this way, because I know that you're going to be voting your faith. You're going to be voting your values. And so that's great. It means that we can focus on the folks who might be on the fence on a particular thing and so on. So we do very much appreciate that.
And in my world, I'm trying to influence the other legislators too.
Right.
That's something that we see out there, and I'm not trying to strong arm them or any of that. That's not the way it works. To get truth out there to the other people in the chamber, the other legislators in the chamber, is key, and that's how we worked on some of the legislation. I mean, you can give them your personal beliefs and all that stuff, and that's fine, but getting truth to people is very effective.
Yeah.
And that's what we try and do.
Okay, so final question. What is a good way for people to get involved in politics and public policy? What would you suggest?
Well, every district has its party meetings, conventions. Get involved. Get involved in your local school district. Become a school board member. Become there's all these grassroots organizations and boards and so forth that you can get involved in. Jump on them. You don't have to become a legislator.
Right.
You can make all the difference in the world in the park board, in the city councils, in the county commissioners, and there's plenty of positions out there. Those are not necessarily highly sought after in some instances, especially in our small communities. And you can make all the difference in the world if you will faithfully serve on these boards and councils and as commissioners and so forth. So if you're going to get involved, you don't have to necessarily get involved in politics like this. You can, I'm proof that anybody can be here. And, like I said, get involved in your local boards, councils, mayor, whatever. There's lots of positions out there for people that want to get involved and make a difference, because you can. That's where the decisions are made for your community, even culturally for your committees or for your communities. So that's my recommendation. And become a precinct leader. Get involved. So many people, and I was one of them, are sitting at home. Just leave me alone. I'm just going to go do my job or my career or my business. Leave me alone. Somebody else should fix it. I'm sorry, but that is probably not a good idea, because somebody's going to do the work, and they might not have your principles. They might not have your values.
Right.
And so therefore, they're going to come up with something that you probably won't agree with.
Yeah.
And so if you want to make a difference, get involved. And it's a long journey getting involved. Mm-hmm. And it's work, and it's time, and it's effort. But in our country, the only reason we're a country is because people got involved in the colonial times, and they made a difference. They took a stand, and they went after it, and they had a lot of faith. If you read anything about our colonial people, our founding fathers and so forth, they were people full of faith, and they wanted to protect their communities. And that's the only way it's going to happen, is if you get involved. Don't let somebody else do it, because they aren't going to do it according to your liking. So,
well, excellent. Well, thank you so much, Senator, for joining us. We really appreciate it, and God bless.
Okay. Thank you.